Remember that sound, the jarring, metallic ring of an old alarm clock, tearing through the pre-dawn quiet, pulling you from deep sleep. You'd feel it, that undeniable chill in the air, before the first weak light stretched across the room. Then, the quiet shuffle of feet across cool linoleum, a path worn smooth by countless mornings. On the stove, the low, expectant hum of an enamel kettle would begin, steadily building to a piercing, triumphant whistle, steam coiling like a ghost in the dim light. And then, the ritual, scalding water, almost a liquid fire, poured carefully into the waiting thermos. You can almost feel the warmth radiating from it, can't you? Hear that satisfying, airtight wok as the stopper sealed, holding precious heat within. That wasn't just a sound, it was the first, profound promise of sustenance, packed for the day ahead. That clink and wok of the thermos stopper wasn't just a sound that marked the end of an early morning ritual, it was the opening chord of a daily symphony, a quiet prelude to the sustenance that would power a demanding day. That metal lunchbox itself, you see it, don't you? Perhaps it was a well-worn veteran, its surface scarred by countless journeys from kitchen table to factory floor, from building site to dockyard. Its paint, once a uniform industrial green or blue, might have chipped in places, revealing the honest, sturdy steel beneath. Each scratch and dent a whispered story of a day's graft, a dropped tool, a forgotten knock against a workbench. It was a humble, unpretentious vessel, but within its simple, strong clasps lay a carefully curated world, a daily provision. When those familiar, steadfast clasps finally yielded with a satisfying click, a unique blend of aromas would greet you, a scent that was undeniably home. It wasn't a sophisticated fragrance, but a comforting, earthy bouquet of thick-cut bread, its crust perhaps slightly dense but utterly reliable, layered with generous slices of proper, sharp cheddar cheese. Nestled beside them, like treasured jewels, would be the tangy, vibrant green of pickled onions or gherkins, a sharp, invigorating counterpoint to the creamy, rich cheese. These weren't delicate, insubstantial things, these were sandwiches built for purpose, constructed to last and to fuel, wrapped not in cling film, but in humble, crinkly greaseproof paper or even a square of foil, lovingly smoothed around the edges. When you peeled back that wrapping, the bread might have absorbed a hint of moisture from its long journey, a little softening from its close quarters, but it was still perfect. The first bite was always a satisfying yielding, then a burst of familiar flavor, salty, sharp, utterly British, a taste that was both robust and deeply reassuring. And what else did that metal treasure chest hold? Almost certainly, a hard-boiled egg. Sometimes it might still hold a whisper of warmth, sometimes cool to the touch, its pale, porcelain shell often dusted with a fine scattering of salt, carefully added. It was a simple protein punch, easily unwrapped, easily consumed, a small, self-contained package of energy. Perhaps a piece of fruit would also nestle within, a robust, polished apple, or maybe a slightly bruised but sweet orange, bringing a splash of natural color and a hint of welcome sweetness to the proceedings. These fruits were chosen for their resilience, their ability to survive the journey and still offer their simple goodness. And then, the true treat, the silent declaration of care, a modest wedge of fruitcake, or a humble piece of sponge, wrapped in its own little parchment parcel. It wasn't fancy, certainly not delicate, but it was deeply satisfying, a sweet reward for hours of demanding work, a small indulgence that tasted unmistakably of home, of comfort, of a little moment of joy carved out of a demanding day. If you grew up in those years, this isn't history, it's memory. You can almost feel the reassuring weight of that lunchbox in your hand, the slight chill of the metal against your fingers, the residual warmth of the thermos against your palm. You can hear the subtle rustle of the foil as you peel it back, the soft squish of a sandwich as you sink your teeth into it, the faint, satisfying crack of an eggshell. This was more than just a meal, it was a carefully curated experience, a daily ritual, a familiar comfort repeated across countless homes and workplaces. It was dignity in a tin box, a promise of strength for the grueling hours ahead, a tangible link to the warmth and care of a kitchen that was now miles away. Each item, simple as it was, spoke volumes. It was about the unspoken language of care, packaged and ready for the world. And as those provisions were carefully tucked back into their metal home, the lid secured with a familiar click, you knew it was ready to face whatever the day held. That secure click of the lunchbox lid wasn't the end of a process, but the start of a journey, carrying the promise of sustenance into the burgeoning day. The quiet street outside your door, once only disturbed by the whisper of the wind, would soon begin to stir with the low rumble of life. The distant, throaty growl of an early bus, the rhythmic thud of feet on pavements, the occasional shouted greeting between neighbors or the brisk rustle of a paperboy on his rounds. These were the sounds of a nation getting to work, a collective breath taken before the day's labor truly began. You'd step out, perhaps into a damp, misty morning, the air crisp and carrying the faint scent of coal smoke, damp earth, and the distant, metallic tang of industry. That lunchbox, swinging gently by your side, wasn't just food, it was your companion, your anchor to the warmth of home in a world that would soon demand your full attention, your unwavering strength. Then came the workday itself. The relentless, deafening cacophony of the factory floor, the rhythmic clanging of metal on metal, the hiss of steam, the ceaseless roar of machinery that vibrated through your very bones. Or perhaps the shouts and grunts of a building site, the scraping of shovels against hard ground, the insistent thrum of pneumatic drills tearing through rock and concrete. Hours would pass in a blur of repetitive motion, of focused concentration, of sheer physical exertion. The world outside the immediate task faded, replaced by the pressing demands of the job at hand. Your hands would grow rough and calloused, your muscles would ache with the effort, but the work continued, relentless and absolutely necessary, each task a small but vital contribution to the greater whole. The sweat, the dust, the grime, these were the daily companions, etched into the lines of faces, ingrained deep into the fabric of clothes, a testament to honest labor. But then, the sound. The blessed, piercing factory whistle asterisk, a shrill, insistent cry that cut through the industrial din like a knife. Or perhaps the loud, resonating clang of a bell, echoing across the worksite. It was the signal, the universal call to reprieve, a sudden, almost eerie hush descending over the usual clamor as machines idled and tools were gratefully set aside. Suddenly, the relentless rhythm of labor gave way to a moment of collective pause. This was the moment. Men, weary but animated, would begin to gather, their faces showing a mixture of fatigue and anticipation. No fancy canteens, no designated, pristine break rooms, not often. You'd find your spot, a sturdy wooden crate, a coil of thick rope, a stack of timber, a quiet corner on the shop floor, or leaning against the rough, unfinished bricks of a half-built wall. This was the informal common ground, the unspoken agreement to share a precious moment of respite, a brief escape from the demanding world of work. You'd carefully unclip that lunchbox, its metallic surface perhaps now warm from the heat of your body, or cool from the damp environment, a tangible link to the outside world. Out came the thermos first, its contents still steaming, the robust, comforting aroma of strong, sweet tea filling the air. You'd pour it into your well-used mug, the steam curling invitingly, a promise of immediate warmth and comfort. Then, the sandwiches, carefully unwrapped from their foil or greaseproof paper, revealing their homely, substantial goodness. A collective sigh of satisfaction, a shared moment of simple pleasure as the first bite was taken. You'd chew slowly, savoring the homemade taste, feeling the energy flow back into your tired body, a quiet reassurance. A hard-boiled egg would be cracked, the shell meticulously peeled away, perhaps seasoned with a little salt carried in a tiny twist of paper. This wasn't just about eating, it was a profound communal ritual. Jokes would be exchanged in gruff, tired voices, stories told of the morning's trials, the news of the day dissected and debated. A shared glance, a nod of understanding between men who knew the demands of each other's work, bound by a mutual respect. Sometimes, a piece of that fruit cake would be offered, a silent, generous gesture of camaraderie, of mutual support for the shared burden of labor. The tea flowed, warming hands that were calloused and tired, warming spirits against the chill. This was the fuel that kept the machine of Britain turning, not just in calories, but in the quiet solidarity of men who understood each other, bound by the shared rhythm of work and the simple goodness of a home-packed meal. If you grew up in those years, this isn't history, it's memory. It's the taste of camaraderie, the warmth of the tea, the brief, cherished pause before the whistle blew again, sharp and insistent, calling you back to the task at hand. That packed lunch, carried so steadfastly through the chill of countless mornings, was far more than just a personal meal. It was the very fuel that ignited and sustained the industrious heart of Britain. Imagine the sheer, unyielding force of that collective effort, the monumental undertaking of an entire nation. Every sandwich, every sustaining sip of hot tea, every fortifying bite of fruitcake was a tiny, yet vital, component in the immense machinery of national endeavor. You see the images, don't you? The steelworkers, their faces grimed with soot and sweat, silhouetted against the fierce, blinding glow of molten metal, their resolve as hard as the steel they forged. The shipbuilders, dwarfed by the colossal hulls taking shape in the dockyards, their rhythmic hammers echoing the very pulse of progress, building vessels that would traverse the world's oceans. The miners, deep beneath the earth, their lamps piercing the impenetrable darkness, extracting the black gold that powered homes and industries alike. And the countless factory workers, men and women alike, bending over assembly lines, their hands performing intricate, tireless tasks with astonishing precision, day in and day out, contributing to a tapestry of production. Each one of them, at some crucial point in their long, demanding day, would reach for that familiar lunchbox. That simple, sturdy container held not just the promise of sustenance, but the assurance of renewed strength, the brief, vital respite that allowed him to push on, to meet the challenges of their relentless labor. The energy derived from those thick cheese and pickle sandwiches, the restorative warmth from that thermos of tea, the quick, comforting sugar hit from that piece of cake, it wasn't just keeping an individual going, it was driving the very engines of industry, forging the backbone of a country. These were the unsung heroes, the men and women who, with their calloused hands and unwavering spirit, laid the literal and figurative foundations of modern Britain. They built the bridges that spanned rivers, the roads that connected communities, the power stations that brought light and energy to homes, and the factories that produced the goods the world demanded. And their daily packed lunch was an unsung hero in this monumental, national undertaking. Now, think of the stark contrast with today. The gleaming, often sterile office blocks, where lunch might be a quick, often solitary dash to a high street chain like Pret-a-Manger for a pre-made sandwich or a convenient salad from a supermarket shelf. The muted, efficient hum of a microwave heating a ready meal, the quiet clatter of a keyboard as work continues through the lunch break, the subtle isolation of eating alone at a desk, eyes fixed on a screen. There's an undeniable convenience, certainly, a clean efficiency that defines our modern approach to sustenance. The choices are endless, the packaging sleek and often disposable. But something has been profoundly lost along the way, hasn't it? The shared ritual, the communal moment of breaking bread with colleagues, the tangible, earthy connection to home that those simple ingredients represented. The robust, honest goodness of food prepared with a clear purpose, to sustain real, physical labor, to fuel the very building of a nation. If you grew up in those years, this isn't history, it's memory. It's the memory of dignity in labor, of the sheer, tangible output of human effort. It's the profound understanding that the strength for all that building, all that creating, came from something deeply personal, deeply human, and often remarkably simple. That lunchbox wasn't just a container for food, it was a vessel of national purpose, a humble symbol of the quiet, unwavering grit and resilience that propelled a generation. The sights of those vast industrial landscapes, the thunderous sounds of those working hubs, the very air thick with the smell of progress and effort, all of it sustained, day after day, by the humble, unwavering contents of a working man's packed lunch. And as the day drew to a close, and tired feet carried you home through the twilight, that empty lunchbox felt lighter, certainly, but paradoxically, full to the brim with the day's hard-won achievements, a quiet testament to another day of building Britain. As the day's relentless din faded, slowly replaced by the softening light of evening and the quiet domestic hum of home, those empty lunchboxes, carried back with the same quiet determination as they were taken out, weren't merely containers to be refilled for tomorrow. They were silent testimonies, carrying the subtle echoes of the day's toil, the lingering scent of industry, back to the very hands that had so carefully filled them. For behind every thermos of hot, strong tea and every meticulously wrapped sandwich lay an equally profound story. The story of unwavering care, of quiet dedication, of the deep, often unspoken love packed into every single meal. Think back to the earliest hours of the morning, long before that jarring alarm clock went off for your father or your husband. You remember the sounds from the kitchen, don't you? The gentle clatter of pottery as breakfast was prepared, the soft sigh of the oven as it warmed the house, the rhythmic, soothing chop of vegetables for the evening meal, or perhaps the quiet humming of a tune carried on a soft breath, a melody only for the still, waking house. These were the sounds of another kind of work, often unseen, often unacknowledged in the grand scheme of national endeavor, but absolutely vital, absolutely foundational to everything that followed. This was the work of a mother, a wife, a partner, carefully, lovingly preparing the day's provisions. Her hands, perhaps already tired from caring for children, from managing the household, from the endless round of chores, would move with a practiced ease born of routine and purpose. The unhurried spreading of butter, right to the very edges of the bread, ensuring every bite would be moist and satisfying. The careful slicing of the cheese, ensuring each piece was substantial, a generous offering of sustenance. The meticulous wrapping of the sandwiches in their greaseproof paper or foil, smoothing out every crease, every fold, as if each wrinkle in the paper was a silent blessing, a small wish for well-being. That hard-boiled egg, perhaps a tiny, extra sprinkle of salt carefully added. And that piece of cake, chosen, perhaps, because it was a particular favorite, a small, sweet indulgence to break the monotony, or simply because it offered a brief, welcome moment of escape in an otherwise tough day. Every single item placed with intention, with a quiet, unwavering love that needed no words. You can almost see her, can't you? Standing at the kitchen counter in the soft, intimate glow of a low-wattage bulb, her concentration unwavering, her thoughts perhaps drifting to the man who would soon rise, or the children still sleeping soundly in their beds, their small chests rising and falling with innocent dreams. There was an unspoken understanding, a silent contract of care that bound the home to the workplace. This packed lunch wasn't just a utilitarian necessity, a simple means to ward off hunger. It was a tangible expression of profound concern, a daily reminder that, no matter how harsh or demanding the world outside became, there was warmth, comfort, and unwavering support waiting at home. It was a message wrapped in foil, a silent hug packed into a thermos of tea. The dignity of the working man was not just in his labor, but in the steadfast, enduring love that fueled him, day in and day out. If you grew up in those years, this isn't history, it's memory. It's the memory of that invisible hand, those quiet acts of service, the deep, abiding affection that permeated every detail of daily life. It was a profound connection, a lifeline stretching from the domestic sphere, steeped in care, to the demanding, often unforgiving world of work. The slight weight of that full lunchbox in the morning, the comforting warmth of the thermos against cold fingers, these were the physical manifestations of a love that didn't need grand gestures or loud declarations. It was a love that simply was steady and reliable, packed into every single day, into every single meal. A silent, enduring testament to the heart of the home, quietly upholding the strength of a nation, one lovingly prepared lunch at a time. This was the hidden engine, the beating heart behind the brawn, and its legacy remains etched in the quiet corners of our collective memory. And so, we arrive at the quiet of today. That old, battered metal lunchbox, now perhaps a forgotten relic nestled deep in an attic, or a treasured curiosity carefully placed on a shelf, sits empty. Its purpose, its daily ritual, its very reason for being, has long since passed into the realm of cherished memory. Look at it closely, the faded paint that once gleamed with purpose, the small dents and dings that speak of countless bumps and drops, the scuffs and scratches on its surface, each mark a silent testament to a life lived, a journey undertaken countless times, a story of honest toil. It stands as a silent witness to an entire era, a humble, unpretentious vessel that carried not just food, but the very essence of a bygone time, a tangible piece of a world that once was. Today, the pre-dawn quiet is often broken not by a jarring alarm, but by the gentle glow of a smartphone screen, or the soft, efficient hum of a sophisticated coffee machine. Lunch, for many, has become a solo affair, a quick scroll through social media while munching on a pre-made wrap, a hurried bite of a deconstructed salad from a plastic tub, a microwave meal warmed in a sterile office kitchen. The robust, comforting aroma of freshly brewed coffee, often from a pod, has replaced the potent, invigorating scent of strong, sweet tea brewed in an old enamel kettle. The crisp, clean lines of modern convenience, the sterile efficiency of contemporary packaging, have replaced the well-worn comfort of the familiar, the sturdy dependability of the homemade. We move faster, eat quicker, consume more readily, driven by the relentless pace of modern life. There's an undeniable trade-off, isn't there? We've gained immense efficiency, a bewildering variety of choices, an almost endless array of global cuisines at our fingertips. But what have we lost along the way? What subtle threads have unraveled from the fabric of our daily lives? We've lost the shared moment, the collective pause that fostered camaraderie and connection. We've traded the unifying scent of homemade food, imbued with personal care, for the individualistic anonymity of mass-produced, often highly processed meals. We no longer carry the literal weight of home, the tangible comfort of a packed meal, into our demanding days in quite the same way. The quiet dedication of hands that prepared a simple, hearty meal, the unspoken language of love meticulously wrapped in foil or greaseproof paper. These have become echoes, faint whispers from a past that feels increasingly distant, almost mythical. This was not merely food, not simply a meal designed to quell hunger. It was a thermos of warmth against the biting cold, a resilient piece of home carried into the deafening clamor of industry, a silent promise of care from those left behind at the hearth. It was the enduring fuel that built a nation, the quiet dignity packed into every bite, the unwavering resilience found in every sip of tea. When the comforting clatter of the lunchbox faded from daily life, when the trusty thermos was replaced by a disposable plastic bottle, and the substantial sandwich by a quick, shop-bought bite, we didn't just lose a tradition. We began, slowly but surely, to lose a whole world. A world defined by shared hardship and simple pleasures, by quiet acts of love and unwavering purpose. A world that our fathers, our grandfathers, our mothers, and our grandmothers carried with them, every single day, in a simple metal box. If you grew up in those years, this isn't history, it's memory. And if you didn't, it's a vital echo of a time that profoundly shaped the very ground you stand on, the society you inhabit. This wasn't just a lunchbox. This was a whole universe, packed up with care, carried out with purpose, consumed with gratitude, and, in many ways, lost to the relentless march of time. But these memories, these feelings, they still linger, don't they? They stir something deep within us, reminding us of where we came from, of the strength that was forged in simple rituals, and the profound, enduring power of unspoken love. To keep these echoes alive, to hold on to the warmth of those forgotten days, to ensure they're never truly lost to the relentless currents of the present, we invite you to become a part of our journey. Join our community, share your own memories, your own fragments of that rich, vibrant past, and let's keep the spirit of that packed lunch, and the world it so powerfully represented, burning brightly in our collective consciousness. Because some things are too precious, too meaningful, too deeply human to ever be allowed to fade into complete silence.